Okay, we're about ready to begin. Wish I could read some of these. Yes, I'm going to cut his hair. Hi, everybody. Sherry here from On Point. Today, I just decided to jump on live and dip my toe into the waters on YouTube. And my husband here, this is Larry, he wanted a haircut. And one of the haircuts that is trending right now for men and women is the mullet. Something a little bit about me is I've been in the industry since the early 80s, and the mullet wasn't called the mullet back then. It was called like a bi-level. And just like all trends, they all come back around, and the mullet has. Now, my husband, he's a musician, and he wore this look years ago, and I swore I would never give it to him again. But
being the good wife that you are,
I decided I'm going to. And there's just so many stylists that ask me questions. I don't know if you're aware of my company, On Point Hair Academy. You can always check it out in the links. But I have a membership, and I teach hair cutting and business building. And I've been getting stylists on there asking me, how do you do a mullet? Would you do a class on a mullet? So anyway, Larry needed a haircut, and I had time today. So here we are. So the first thing I wanted to show you is the inspiration photo. This is kind of what we agreed on. What I like about this is that Larry, his hair is not super long yet, but he wants to, this will be a great way to transition him into a mullet. So, first of all, before I start showing you his hair, when you're looking at an inspiration photo that is a client is asking you for, like when I'm looking at this picture, what I'm looking here for is the length in the back, how short it is around the ear, and the length on the top. Those are the things that I'm looking for in the way it's styled. So, when I'm going to ask Larry a few questions just so that you can kind of get an idea of how a consultation would go in the salon, because it's so important as hairstylists to be able to communicate properly with our clients. So, Larry, what do you like about this haircut?
well, I mean, it's got that length in the back that you really like, and but I actually like it a little bit shorter on top. I always want my hair shorter. Yes, and you like it longer in the back. So this was a good compromise between the two, and the sides are actually short, but we talked about keeping the top maybe a little bit shorter as well, but.
So, just from this consultation, what I'm picking up from this is he really likes this style, but there's something he keeps saying, and that is, I want it a little bit shorter on top, which I will accommodate for him. So, with that being said, before we get started on cutting, it's so important to take the time first to analyze the head shape of what we're working on and all the growth patterns that we have. So, my husband, being as young as he is, has this fun little recession area here. So I have to be aware of that when I'm creating his look. The other thing is, I'm just going to turn you. We're, by the way, at my home. I have like a little studio that I built out. It's something that throughout my career, I've always had kind of a little space. When I was young mother, I had a little space in my apartment where I dedicated for just my practice. And this is the room that we're in here. This is my place where I videotape and where I practice on my mannequin heads. So the other thing that I'm looking for on him is how much sideburn he's got, how much hair he's got here, how close the hair grows to his ear, and how much space here in the mastoid process, that space between the ear and the hairline, that's a place you always want to check out. Because like in the picture, I look at that picture and I can just tell by the way the hair lays that gentleman in the picture, he doesn't have much of a space here behind his ear. And my husband doesn't either, so I don't have to worry about that. But if I had a client that had a big space here, then I'm going to be having to be very aware of that to leave just a little bit more length here so that when he looks in the mirror, he sees that hair behind his ear. The other thing that I'm looking at is the hairline. So Larry has a hairline that just kind of grows down low on either side. So before I even begin, I'll be just cutting that off with a razor. And then I'm just looking at, like, he's got nice waves, so, and I love that. And so it's perfect for this kind of look. And then, you know, the crown area, how much hair is there, how much movement's there. And then, of course, on the top, just seeing, you know, how high the apex is. So starting out, what I mean by that is always, you know, feeling the head shape. When I'm talking about the apex, it's this top of the head. That's important because in a men's haircut, they tend to be squarer. You know, you want to make it a bit more square. And the way you're going to do that is if the hair is really, if the apex is high and it's more pointy, you're going to have to go just a little bit shorter in that area and a little bit longer in the frontal bone area to create more of a flattened look in the top. But we'll get more into that. You'll see it as we dive into the haircut. The other thing that I stress with all my videos, I don't know if any of you have watched any of them here on YouTube or have visited my social media, but I always talk about how the importance of mapping your haircut out before you even begin. So for every men's haircut that I do, I always go in and I just kind of lay the comb on the side of the head and find out where the parietal ridge is, the widest point of the head. And you can just do that by laying the comb on the side of the head here. And wherever it just lifts off, that is where I'm going to kind of divide the top from the bottom. In my language, in the way I teach, anything above the parietal ridge is the interior and anything below the parietal ridge is the exterior. So I'm just going to go around here and just kind of take a horseshoe shaped section all the way around the top of the head. Now I'm just using like basic clips that I've got here at home. My favorite clips that I use in the salon are by From. They have some black ones that are just, they hold the hair really, really well. Nice and tight. They're easy to put in. And they hold the hair really well. These are just basic ones. This is an impromptu live, so I didn't bring all my stuff home. So as you can see here, I have created a horseshoe parting all the way around to right above the crown area. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is, just like I said, I'm going to just, you're going to have to move a lot, Larry, so they can see. I'm just going to turn him around here. And like I said, I'm just going to kind of come in here and just take off just that growth that's unnecessary on the sides. Turn a little bit more so they can see. No, this way. There we go. Sorry if that pulls a little, Larry. So then I just don't have that hair hanging down here because we don't need it. And that's something, just so you know, to do. Let's say you have, go ahead and turn around again. You have a client where their hairline just grows super low on their neck, and they want the look of a mullet. You can go in and just kind of remove the lower portion of the nape area with your razor or your clippers, and then that just kind of allows it to curl and kind of move on the bottom. So that's just a little tip. So first thing I'm going to do is create the shape around the perimeter. So because of that look, we go right over the ear here, and then it's going to go to a longer length in the back. So just by taking the hair and just combing it toward the ear, and then going in and just cutting around the ear. If you're curious about what scissors I'm using, I am an ambassador for shark fin shears. And I chose to use their shears because I like the way they feel in my hand, number one, but they also give a lifetime warranty and they provide a ton of education. And they have just really good deals. Like for new hairstylists who I focus on or people that are starting out, it's hard. It's tough to get your tool chest built up with nice scissors. And some of them are just so much money. And it's hard to understand which ones are best. And even if you don't want to use shark fin shears, you could visit their website and they have education on there that goes through explaining to you what the difference is between scissors and how some are better than others and how to figure out what works best for you. So now I'm just going around. So we're going around the ear because we want it short, right? But now I've got to marry what the shortness here down to the length in the back because I don't want to remove too much here. So I'm going to just I'm just combing the hair into my hand. You can see that there. And then I'm just kind of angling my hand to meet the length that I'm going to. However, I have my hand here, like if I wasn't paying attention and my elbow was out this way and I started to cut, if I were to extend that line, I'm going to cut off this whole corner here, which is what I don't want to do because I want him to be able to, I want to preserve as much length as I can in the back. So I'm going to pull it all forward onto my hands. And I'm gripping with the tip of my finger and my second finger. I'm gripping right at the tip of the ear. And then I'm just kind of angling, keeping my elbow in at my body and then kind of shifting my arm down so that I know that this line is going to meet with that line. So my point to that is that if you're starting out or you're new at haircutting, sometimes you need to quiet the conversation with you and your client to keep yourself focused.
I haven't said a word yet.
I know. I've been talking like crazy. But sometimes, if we're still learning and a client is talking with us and we're getting conversation, there's nothing worse. Because trust me, I've done it where I have cut I've cut hair where I didn't intend to. And then I've got to figure out how I explain to them that their haircut's going to be a little different. So hopefully you'll get a little bit of a different view here. One of the things I want you to notice as I'm cutting here is that the hair's wet, but it's not sopping wet. It's wet enough that I can control it, but it's not so dry that I can't control it. It's not so wet that it's dripping. You want the hair to be able to talk to you a little bit. Now, the reason I'm combing this forward here is because I just really want a nice, clean line here around the hairline. So just by pulling that forward, that alleviates all that hair around the hairline. Let's see what the comments are. Forgive me if you do have questions and I don't answer. I'm a one-man show today. And be sure that after the live, if you have a question, I will go through and look at the comments and answer it for you. You can also reach me a little quicker too, like outside of here. I have a Facebook group that I created called the Hairstylist Hub, where you cut and connect, where it's a great place for you if you have questions and you just want a little bit of some personal coaching or something. You can go in there and just answer the questions and get in there. And I'm always checking that, and I'd be happy to answer questions there as well. So now that we've established the length on the sides and I've created the blend all the way to the end, I'm just going to start layering this. And I'm going to start by, I want to flatten out everything all around the center of the head, all the way across. Okay. In a mullet, every mullet's a little bit different. You see some that are, they kind of blend down into the length in the back. You see some of them where they create this tightness, and then this is all tight here, and then the length is in here. That's kind of a modified version of I would say a mullet with a mohawk kind of thing. But today we're just doing a mullet. So Larry likes it to be nice and tight. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create those layers. So I'm standing in front of him, and just a key point when you're cutting men's hair, body position and finger position are key. So what I'm thinking is, while I'm cutting these sides, is I'm thinking about standing in a square and my fingers are in a square. So I'm making sure that my elbow is up. If I'm down here, I start to round out. So I keep my elbow up. I'm pulling the hair straight out from the hair where it lives. My fingers are straight, even with the wall. And I'm cutting it straight off. So if you've got it parted off up to your parietal ridge, you don't have to worry about whether you're going to cut too much off. I'd say the biggest issue that I see when people are cutting men's hair is they get it too rounded and then it looks too feminine. So, and you can alleviate that issue just by taking the time to map it out before you start your haircut. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a little bit of my last section with me and carrying it throughout my haircut. So I'm going to just, I cut a section, I take, if you're starting out or you tend to get lost in your haircutting, take a thicker guide with you and marry it with your next section. That way you're not ever wondering if you're cutting it the right place or not. If you have your guide and you can see your guide, then you're okay. So back up. If you lose your guide, back up and just find it. So now I'm just going through here and I'm not thinking about blending this into the nape. Like I said, I'm just simply worried about cutting everything in the center here. I'll come back and blend this in when I'm finished. I'm going to do that probably at the very end because I'm going to marry the top in with it, and then we'll come in and see what we have to blend into the nape. A good way to know if you need to wet it down is happening to me right now. I'm going through the haircut and his hair is drying out and he has a lot of. If I can't control it and see my guide, then I know I need to wet it down. So, and then periodically, if you want, as you're going through it, go back in and take a horizontal section, pulling it straight out from the head and just looking for anywhere that maybe you are starting to get off kilter. And just do that periodically as you're going through the haircut. All right. So funny story. I started doing hair when I was in high school. So I graduated when I was 17 in June. I got married that December, and he was in the service. And we moved to this small town in Missouri. And it was one of those towns you drive through and you're thinking, how does anybody live here? It was one of those towns. And we found a place to live, and I had nowhere to work as a hairstylist. So the guy that I was renting from, he said, there's a new mall coming in town, and I have a salon that I'm opening. So I was like, cool. Well, it ended up being a barber shop. So that's where I started my experience cutting men's hair. I cut my teeth at a barber shop. I definitely learned that men gossip too. And I learned all about tobacco. But that's just a little side note, funny story. You never know where you're going to glean your lessons. But I'm really glad I had that experience because I learned a lot. So as you can see here, I'm just coming around the head This is the clips. This is why I don't like these clips. They pop out. So you can see how nice that's starting to lay. Now we're going to go to the other side. You can see the difference just from side to side. We're going to do this side. So here again, my elbow is up high. I'm on the opposite side of the head. So my fingers are leading the way this time. So my elbow is up high to ensure that my fingers are just parallel with the wall. I'm also being aware of the link that I cut on the other side. My fingers are not completely against the scalp. It's a little out from the head. But you can definitely see on this side how double prong clippy, they come in handy for things like this. How I'm taking these sections and working cleanly. So I'm combing it away and just bringing that last section with me, making sure that the section I'm cutting is coming out from where it lives, straight out from where it lives, combing it down, double checking, and then moving on. Hair cutting, I don't know. To me, when I first learned it, the way I was taught it in school, I couldn't get it. You would have asked me back then or told me that one day I would be known for my hair cutting skills, teaching. I've apprenticed many, many hairstylists on to becoming successful at their hair cutting skills. I would have laughed. I never in a million years thought that I would, because it was hard for me to grasp. I just didn't get it. And it wasn't until I was forced, I became a single mother of 2 young boys at a very young age. And I had to really up my game, and I had to really make sure that I learned how to cut hair so that I could attract those clients that are paying the higher price for my services, so that I could be home with my kids, to be there for those important things, and just honestly, just to keep my kids. So in that company that I went to an academy, and it was then that the light bulbs went on. I finally understood haircutting, and it was just, everybody learns differently. Everybody teaches a little bit differently, and the way they explained things just helped so much. I went on also to go to Sassoon as well, and eventually I come home, I'd practice it, and eventually it just became part of my work, and I was able to become creative and just really build a good, solid clientele in haircutting. And now there's a lot of hairstylists that don't want to cut hair; they just want to do color, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'll tell you, as I was building my business, which I've had to at least 4 times in my career, and the last being about 10 years ago, it was because of my haircutting skills that I got people in my chair, and I built the trust with them. And then from there, then I was able to talk to them, and they trusted me, and I was able to talk to them about color and about extensions, or whatever services that you're doing. Then that becomes easy because you've built that trust with them. Everybody needs a haircut. Everybody. So anyway, can you see how that's starting to really take shape here? So we'll turn him around here.
So that would be a good segue to tell everybody about your new membership.
Oh, yes. What Larry's talking about is I just recently opened up the doors to my online membership. You can check it out on my website. It's been years of building this, and it's comprised of tons of hair cutting tutorials and I'm also going to do live classes where I actually have a client and we go through the picture, just go through the entire haircuts. Also business building, learning how to just build your business quickly, and build a clientele that you enjoy doing. But anyway, you can find out all that at onpointhairacademy.com, which, by the way, because I just launched it until tomorrow, right now it's at a very low price, like $19.99 for a month, $212, I think, for the year, and it's lifetime. So that will be ending tomorrow at midnight, and then it will go up to $29.99. So if you're interested in learning about that, go ahead, visit my website, and don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask. All right, so now we have created we've tucked it in on the sides, and now I want to marry this top into the sides. But like I was sharing with you in the very beginning, when I was looking at his head shape, at Larry's head shape, I shared with you that he's got some recession area here. So in order that I don't cut that off, because I've got to be aware of it, I'm going to save it for the very end. So I'm just going to have Larry look down here a little bit. So I'm just kind of coming in here at the frontal bone. You can kind of find that by just setting your comb, turn to the side here a little bit, and just rocking it back and forth. And where it lifts up, that's where you want to part off and just have that come forward. But I'm going to take it a little bit further, and I'm just going to take a little bit of either side of the recession area and of that frontal bone, and I'm just going to kind of just take just a small little bit and move it forward. That's just kind of something I threw in there because I think it's good, especially when we're just learning on cutting hair and just getting our feet wet and getting comfortable. It just ensures you that you're not going to cut something that you didn't want to have cut. So now the tools that I'm going to be using some different tools as I work through here. Right now, like I said, I'm just using a shark fin shear. It's I believe it's their 6-inch or 5.5 blade. They're not too much different than each other, but it's just a basic shear with a nice pointy edge. But I'm also going to use a razor right now. And I'm choosing to use a razor to blend this top into the sides, just because Larry has, when you look at the sides here, when I bring it down, you see how that pops out just a little bit. He's got a lot of movement and calyx in his hair, and what I've noticed over my 40-some year career, I've taken a lot of clients that I've done for many, many years and watched the changes in their hair. And not only does the hair become a little bit finer as we get older, but we get different movements. And Larry's starting to get some calyx and movement right around the parietal ridge here. So by me using a razor, it's going to give a little bit of a softer blend and kind of manipulate that hair to not want to pop so much with the blunt cut on the ends. A razor just kind of gives you you kind of feather it off. It kind of makes the hair kind of want to move a little bit. The only way I could just say is it's kind of like, when you get a haircut, some people say, oh, I loved it about a week later. Well, it's because those ends have loosened up and kind of opened up a little bit, so it just looks a little bit softer. So this just kind of creates that. So what I'm doing here is just taking a section right above the parietal ridge, and I'm just bringing it down to that last link that I created when I was cutting this vertically. I'm going in now horizontally, but what I'm making sure of is that I'm pulling everything straight out from the parietal ridge bone and cutting. And then I'm going to bring everything down to that, because I want to keep it kind of square. And this is where the head starts to round off. So I'm going to start building up a little bit of graduation, a little bit of weight here. I shouldn't have like too much to cut here because the hair is pretty short already. And I'm kind of trying to stand on the side so that hopefully you can see really well. And then just pulling everything down to the parietal ridge, but making sure that I'm straight out of the head at the parietal ridge. What I mean by that is I'm staying here and bring everything to it. So you're kind of getting this slight graduation. If I kept raising it with each section, then I'm going to start rounding that out. So you can see when I turn him, see how he's kind of tighter in here, and then it kind of gets a little bit fuller, kind of creates that squareness. I am going to go in and like layer it as well when I'm finished, but this is just an easy way for you to kind of break down cutting this haircut into a system. You know, system on a way to cut. I call these artistic disciplines. The way I part the hair off, my body position, my fingers, the elevation. I'm thinking about all those things, and those are called artistic disciplines. And once you master those, that's when the artist in you comes out. Earlier, I shared with you that you are watching this from my studio at home, and that my whole career, I always had a space dedicated for that. Sometimes it was just my bedroom, and I just had a little corner that I worked in. That the only way you're going to master anything or become confident at anything is to practice it. And I don't know. That's all I can say. I know it's pretty, sometimes we want to know it now. We want to figure it out now, but it doesn't happen that way. It takes time. So as you can see, I'm kind of rounding the corner here, and I'm right here at the crown area. This is where we have a ton of movement in the hair. So making sure that you can see that. Go to the other side of the head. So I'm really still kind of coming around to the back, pulling it up. You can see right underneath there, there's my guide. I'm just pulling it straight out, being careful not to elevate past my guide. And you can see how that's starting to just flow. When I'm cutting back here and I'm working on his hair, I'm running my fingers through it because I want to see, because this is what he's going to do. And your clients are going to do, they're going to comb their hair back, and you want to make sure that there's not a whole, bunch of hair right here. So that's what I'm doing. I'm checking that. All right. So now we're going to move to the top. So far we've mapped the head shape out. We sectioned it off in a horseshoe section all the way around, just below or just right above the crown area. And we cut the sides nice and tight, keeping the length in the back, and then taking the hair out straight from the head all the way around to the center from the right side, and then came back to the left side and came all the way to the center on the other side. Then we used a razor, and we took horizontal sections down to the guide, pulling it straight out from the head at the parietal ridge, just to create just a little bit of graduation here so you have that shape. Now we're going to go in through the top, and we're going to, he's a little too poofy here. And this, guys, is where your eye comes into. Larry has a longer face, so the higher his hair gets, his face looks longer. So I'm going to make sure that the top of his head, this is where his apex is, that's going to go a little bit shorter than everything else. So the way you find that is just by setting your comb on top of the head. Turn your head to the side. You want to make sure it's right there in the center, not back here in the crown, but right in the center. And where it balances off on both sides, then you know that's the highest part of the head. Okay. I'm going to turn you a little more to the side. There we go. All right. Now remember, we're working on a square, right? So now my elbows are up. My fingers are straight. My elbows out. And I'm going to be a little careful first. I'm just going to cut that first section, and then I'm going to comb it. What I'm doing here is I want to see how that's going to lay. And I think we need to just take a little bit more, because I know him. He will ask me to take it a little shorter. And we're going to take it a little shorter. The thing I don't want is it to be standing straight up. And there you go. We're starting to get a pop here. So that's where I'm going to stop. Okay. So now I'm just going to take that and I'm going to pull it straight up from the head here and bring that all the way back, creating a guide. To the crown. Now, if you noticed, as I work my way back, everything is coming straight from the head, right? And I'm making sure it's straight from the head. So see what happens when my fingers are totally parallel with the floor? All the hair that you don't want to cut is going to fall off. If I wanted to round half, then I'm going to go here. See that point that's left there? But because I want it to be more square, I'm not going to do that right now. Now I might, when I'm all finished with this cut, I may go in and round the corners off a little bit, but that's for when we're all done. The first thing we're doing now is getting our the shape in. Sometimes as hairstylists, we have a vision in our head of what we want. And it's kind of like building a house. You have to put all your walls in and your foundation in and all that stuff in. Then when all that's done, then you get to decorate it and make it what you want it to be. So that's what we're doing right now is we're creating that shape. And then when I'm all done, then I'm going to look at it. I'm going to decide how much I want to blend down here, how much weight I need to take off in different areas to make it look the way I want it to look. So right now, I'm just kind of going from side to side, pulling it straight up from the head. I got a guide here from what I did in the center. I'm making sure I'm pulling it straight up from the head. And I'm going to keep doing that until I run out of hair that's able to be pulled up. I'm going to turn this way so you can kind of see where I'm at, right there. And I'm standing here to the side of him and I can see my last section. So I know that I have a guide with me so I can see the length that I want to cut. You can see how the shape is starting to take place on the top. Taking the time to really feel the head shape and understanding before you even begin a haircut is vital on the success of your haircut. I know we as hairstylists, even if we make a mistake, we can make it look good, right? But the problem with that is clients need to first be able to know that they can count on you to be consistent with your work. And they also want to have a haircut that lasts them for a long period of time, that it styles beautifully the whole life of the haircut. So now you can see that that's nice and flat here. So now I'm just going to go in vertically and see. I feel like he's just a little poofy right there on the sides. So I'm just going to go in. You can kind of see that line right there. Can you see that? I'm just going to kind of go in here. And I'm going to just take it. There is my guide right there that I cut. My fingers are totally flat, my elbows up, and I'm just going to kind of take that point off right there. I'm going to do that one more time. So you see, when we went through and we created that weight line on the sides with the razor, it didn't take that much time. But what it does is it gives you another guide to meet with. So every time I change a section, can you see the difference on how that's laying compared to that side? Okay? Kind of like dot to dot. that's, as I'm going throughout this haircut, there's a system to it. And it's, I know where I just know I have a place where I start, a place where I'm going to. And that's just a really great way to work, not only in haircutting, but even when you're working and doing color. Having a system in place ensures consistency in your work, which, trust me, clients, they'll remember more about how you made them feel when they're sitting in your chair than anything. But I don't want to say but, because that, not, erasey on the first. They'll remember everything, that how you made them feel. But that doesn't mean that the work you do on their head doesn't play a part as well. And part of how they feel is, clients can feel if you're working on them and you are not feeling confident. Let's face it, when we're doing a haircut or we're doing something that, we're just talk haircut here, but when we're doing a haircut and we're not sure about how we're going to achieve this haircut, clients can feel that. Just like when we're working on them, we can feel their energy. Totally. When we have to learn as a hairstylist, definitely repel some of that energy. Otherwise, it's exhausting because we bring it home. But they can feel that too. And part of building your clientele is, they've got to feel comfortable and confident in you as a hairstylist. And that comes with practice, and that comes with working with disciplines. So now that we have married the top to the sides, now we're going to bring the front in. I'm going to turn him a little to the side. Is your back hurting there? I just pulled out my cutting stool. He's sitting on that. So now I'm going to, like I said, there's a starting point. Here is the apex. That's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to take all this off. But when you see me pull this up, you can see how this part here I'm over directing it slightly back to keep that length. If I decide I want to cut that off later, I will. But if I cut that the same length as I am on the top, like watch this. If I go like that, that whole point's going to come off and it's not going to flow. So we're going to elevate it straight up. And here, where I left this here by the recession area, I'm going to over direct that over just to preserve the length. Now I may, when it's all finished, I may go in and just, I don't know, take it off. I'm going to over direct this other side as well. But by leaving a little bit of that length there, I'm not cutting a hole. He can like comb it straight back and it kind of fills in a little bit. Looking pretty good, huh? You're looking studly. Okay, so now I want to tighten this up here in the sides. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to bring that picture back up so you guys can see it one more time. So here's the picture. You see that? So now we're going to tighten up the sides here. All right. I'm going to do that here again with the shark fin shear. This is called their eraser. This is a 30-tooth blade. This one I like to use instead of a thinning shear. See how the difference are in these shears? There's more teeth on this one than this one. This one is going to remove more hair. The more you open and close it, the more hair is coming off, because it's finer pieces that are coming off, but a lot more hair is coming off. This leaves a little bit of space in between, and it just creates a nice soft blend. I don't want to remove too much because Larry is not super duper thick here on the sides, so I don't want to remove weight so much as I want to shorten it up and have it blend right into the sides. So I'm going to comb these sides forward. I'm going to start here in the sideburn area, and I'm just holding the scissor right against his face. And I'm going to, it's almost like a dance. My scissors are sitting on my comb. I'm going in at an angle, like a forward back diagonal with my comb as I'm scooping up. And as I kind of come up here to the side, meet the parietal ridge, I'm angling it out. So it's like a arcing motion that I'm doing. So we're going shorter, and I'm going to open and close, open and close. It's like a dance you're doing with your scissors and your comb. And your comb is just, or your scissors are sitting right there on the comb. Okay. And the secret to this is when you're learning it is just open and close once as you walk up. You can do it nice and slow. And then stop and comb it down. And look at it. Don't just open and close your scissors a million times and then go back and look, because it's very easy to take too much. And this is where your eye comes in. What you want to see and what you think needs to come off to create the look that he's desiring. Now, the thing you're not going to see me pull out for this haircut, which I will use later after we're done with the live, is clippers. I will go in here and clean this up with my clippers, but they're in the other room and I forgot to put them in here. So you can see how, you see the difference between how this is tightening up and we still have to do this. That's where that shape that I just shared with you, that's a very easy way to shorten it, but it gives, it's soft. Scissor over comb works great too, but this is just a nice one I wanted to share with you because it's forgiving. You're not going to get choppiness with it. So I hope that as you're watching this, you'll go and practice it. And you know what I know, the best thing you can do is to share your knowledge with someone else. I found, just by accident, that was part of, remember I told you earlier that I went to an academy. One of the lessons that we did, we had to come back and share something we learned with the class. I was mortified because it's kind of intimidating, but oh my gosh, it helped me. It helped cement it in my brain, and then I practiced it whenever I could. So that's just a little tip on learning. So anyways, we're just going in here into the sides, cleaning that up, and then blending it in. You're looking studly there. Okay, so now we're going to come around here to the sides. And this is looking just a little bit bulky to me. So I'm going to pull out my shear. You think of these as your thinning shear, the one, the closer teeth, because I want to actually remove bulk here. But I'm going to be very careful. A little tip here is I'm pulling it out, but I'm going to bend it. Why am I bending it? Because I don't want to cut hair below the first bend. Otherwise, it's just going to, they're going to have these little hairs that are going to stand straight out. We don't want to do that. So pull it out and then bend it, and then just cut right above that first bend. And then I'm going to open it and close it one more time on the ends, just to create a little bit of softness. Because you can kind of see with the light where he's not as thick here and then he gets thicker here. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of eyeing it. And he also has darker hair here too. So sometimes you have to know, like, is it that he's thicker? Is it that the color's a little bit different? Because the color, no matter what you do, if it's darker there, it's gonna not blend as well just because of the color. I'm just gonna soften that line here. Bend it. Whoops, almost cut myself. Don't even feel it anymore after all these years. Let's see how that starts to like really blend in. Turn them all the way around. See that growth pattern right here? It goes straight down. So I got to be careful there, but he does need to have some removed. So I'm going to push that away because right here, there's not as much hair there. So I need to push that away so I don't take hair out of that. This is my goal here. Bending it and then combing it in and seeing how I like it. So this is just really where your creative eye comes in. But the discipline of it is I'm still cutting in a square. My scissors are cutting vertically, flat, mirroring the wall. Cutting right above the first bend. And I'm looking to make sure that where I'm cutting, it needs to have hair removed there. So I'm like thinking about that. I'm thinking about where I'm at on the head. And those are all disciplines that are super important to be consistent. I'm really liking that. Okay. So this little guy's bugging me a little bit. So I'm going to go back in here. And I'm deciding to take this off. So remember I told you can take hair off with this? I want it to be a soft blend here. And I don't want a blunt line here. I'm hoping that maybe I can coax this hair to not want to see how that just created just a little bit of movement. It's like the ends of the hair. If you've ever carved soap, when you carve at the very end, it's just kind of feathery. That's all. I'm using my razor shear, my texturizing shear here to create that feathery vibe on the ends. And you can see how that just wants to move in and blend on the ends. And now we come down to here to the bottom. And I need to blend that in. So I'm just bringing my regular shears back in. Turn you to the side. I'm going to have him look down just a little bit. Now, you could keep this disconnected. There is no, like probably on that haircut, it was probably disconnected here where this just was left. Like you see a lot of mullets where all this is cut and this is left. And the reason it works is because of where they disconnect on the head shape. So we separated interior from exterior. It's also kind of coming in here and separating right where the occipital bone is. And the occipital bone is that bone that protrudes out of the head right here when I stick my comb here on the nape where it lifts off. That's the occipital bone. So if you want to disconnect and let the bottom just stay long, you want to make sure that everything below the occipital bone is left and then everything above the occipital bone is short. And when you're finished, it's just going to comb right in and it's going to have a nice flow to it because you're aware of where you put it on the head shape. Okay. But I'm going to blend a little bit just because I know my man and I know he'll want that. So look down. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to pull it up. I'm just kind of grabbing a nice section here with my finger, using my comb to lift it up. You can see right here is the length. This is, I want to preserve this length. So I'm gripping the length here that's already established. And I'm going to, my hand is resting on his head and I'm just shifting my finger. There's my guide, there's my length, and I'm just going to cut that point off. Okay. And then it blends right down. Okay. Maybe do the next section here. There's my guide. I'm holding the hair still in my comb. That's a really great way to stay control of the hair. The hair is still in the comb. I'm gripping the length here. My hand is resting on his head. My elbow is up, and I'm just going to shift up. Once I see that length dropping out in the nape, I know what to cut. I'm cutting to this length and this length. I'm not cutting. It's just like I said, a dot to dot. Okay. And now it blends. Okay. And I'm just going to do that on both sides. I don't know if you noticed, but I am working kind of on a pivot here because the head's round and it's just easier to work with the round of the head as I'm blending. Don't be afraid to have your clients move their heads either. I think so many times as hairdressers, we get ourselves into these contorted states to try and get the right angle. when we need to remember our chair moves and our client can move. So here I've got my hand resting, my elbows up, comb is still in the hair, and I'm shifting up. There you go. You can see there's the length that I'm wanting, and here's where I'm wanting to go to. Comb some of that away, and then take my next section. Now, as I'm working my way to the side here by the ear, I'm not going to have that much to cut. Hardly anything. And then that blends. This side, hopefully you'll get a little better view. It's hard when you're just working off one camera. Hi, Brandy. My dog just decided to come in. Here's a good one. I bet you'll be able to see it. So now look at where I'm at. I'm on the right side of him. My elbow's over here. Now I'm still grabbing it. My elbow's over here. Shifting up. There's my length. There's the length. So my body, the thing I want to point out is I'm still standing straight up. I'm not leaning this way or that way. That's where we start to get back problems and things like that when we aren't aware of our body position. And we also tend to cut hair that we shouldn't cut. So sometimes if you're somebody that finds yourself being longer on one side than the other whenever you cut, start paying attention to your body position and your fingers and your elbows and your arms. Usually on one side or the other, you're going to have one side that you tend to always be a little bit different on, and start paying attention to what you're doing there. So you can see how that's really starting to blend in. Now that it's starting to dry though, what I'm seeing here is it's a little bulky right there. So as I'm cutting, just hopefully you can kind of see it. I want to really make this line a little invisible, so I picked up my scissors that erase those lines. That's why Shark Fin calls it the eraser. This is where your eye comes in, and I'm just kind of softening those lines. Still needs a little bit more length, bulk taken out of here. So now I'm letting the hair dry on purpose because I want to see how it's going to lay. Turn it the other way. Brandy, you're going to get hair everywhere. What is she doing? All right. So now I'm thinking, I don't know what you're thinking, but this needs to be a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to go in here. Turn your sideways layer. Right. Move towards me. There we go. Okay, stop right there. So what I'm going to do here, because it's just a little too much length, I'm going to pull it forward and cut off that point. Pull this forward. It needs a little bit of length off that. I just saved this part for last because you could do the best job ever on the rest of the hair, but if that front area, you screw that up, they're looking at that every day. So I'm just pulling it forward and then cutting and then combing back and seeing if I like it. So this is where your eye comes in. Looking good there. This is where I wish I could hear your voices and answer questions as I'm working. That is something that I will be doing in my membership. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have the membership, because to me, I think it's valuable as somebody that's watching to be able to ask a question and have it answered live while I'm working. And so that's what's going to happen inside my membership, On Point Hair Academy. I'll be doing lives in there monthly. One of my other passions is hairstyling as well, and I'll be doing that as well.
You got some look and learns coming up too, right?
Yeah. Oh, here in Phoenix, I'm in Phoenix area. I also have a physical location where I do live look and learns and also hands-on hair cutting. I do also visit hair salons. I'm getting ready to go to Nashville in a couple weeks, where I work regularly with a salon and her team and teach them hair cutting skills. So
when are those look and learns?
the first one is actually on this Monday, the 16th. 16th? Yeah. 16th. And that one we're going to be doing a shag haircut. And the next one I'm going to do a short pixie cut. That's October 7th. So what I put in Larry's hair is just a little bit of gel. And this is the finished look. Let me take this off so you can see it. So open it up so you can see it all the way around. Like I said, I'm going to go and clean up his sideburns when we're done, because I didn't have it here. You can see how that just kind of blends into the back. He's got his nice curls in the back. This is Brandy.
Did your mama do